March 11th, 2005. I'm Chris Bury, and this is Nightline. Tonight we travel back in time thanks to some of the first film ever shot, more than 100 years old, film no one knew existed.
It's absolutely impossible to not feel this strong attachment to these films.
A window on a world we knew only in photographs and paintings.
It is close to being a sort of spiritual experience.
So one of the things that most struck me about looking at the films was the density of the advertising.
A glimpse of the world to come.
These beef health drinks, they're being advertised at the games virtually from the word go.
We can actually see it for the first time in its full amazing glory.
This is a new world opening up.
Tonight, the lost world of Mitchell and Kenyon. Step back for a moment to the dawn of the 20th century. The British Empire was at its peak. Back then, King Edward presided over a nation at peace, prospering from the Industrial Revolution. You've probably seen grainy old still photographs in history books. Now imagine the ordinary people in those faded pictures, so often stiff and formally posed, coming magically to life, laughing, working, playing, looking for all the world as if they had just stepped right out of another century. In fact, they have. A treasure trove of the world's earliest moving pictures has been painstakingly restored and made public in the last few months. They are the work of filmmakers Sagar, Mitchell, and James Kenyon, discovered in the basement of an old photo shop. The films not only open an extraordinary, if silent, window into the everyday world of Edwardian England, they contain clear traces of the now familiar formulas used in such modern fare as reality television, cop shows, and even the Super Bowl. In May, the newly restored films of Mitchell and Kenyon will be coming to a theater near you, but you don't have to wait. Nightline correspondent Dave Marish gives us a sneak preview tonight.
Welcome to the Mitchell and Kenyon collection. Some historians compare the discovery of these silent films made between 1900 and 1913 to the opening of the Egyptian King Tut's tomb.
It shows us early Edwardian England in a real way that we've never been able to comprehend before. We've seen still photographs of it, we've read about it, we've never actually been able to see how those people were.
Peter Worden found this time tunnel to the industrial heartland north of England of 100 years ago. And American Andrea Callis restored the films from the British past, which she says show us what would be the future of the 20th century that we all lived in.
You spent 4 years and probably, I don't know, around £1 million restoring these films. Can you justify it? And, you know, my response is, let me just take you by the hand and sit you down. No one I've ever met can instantly connect with and instantly understand that it's part of our history, it's part of who we are.
The idea they could produce work of that quality simply astonished me.
Retired Deputy Labour Party leader Roy Hattersley recently published a history of the reign of King Edward VII.
The Edwardian era is a great period of change. It's changed in every area, political, intellectual, scientific, military. It's the era when the modern world in Britain began. And the films illustrate that, I think, probably better than anything I've seen.
Not that Sagar, Mitchell, and James Kenyon had any idea of recording history.
It's debatable whether Mitchell and Kenyon had really, in the case of most of their films, any documentary intentions at all.
The intention of these films was to capture on camera people who wanted to see not the changing world, but themselves.
They didn't want to see kings and queens and royal dignitaries. There was this first to see themselves and their locality. And Mitchell and Kenyon, by 1900, they were the first real film company to realise this.
So when the camera came to a factory at quitting time, it wasn't to see the product or the work, but the workers.
It's a very strong business model they used. They would actually film the people leaving work or going to football matches, and then they would advertise on that day that the films were going to be shown that evening. With what is now becoming the legend, come and see yourselves on the screen.
The films themselves, which were often shown the very night after the day they were shot, were seen at fairgrounds, in churches and town meeting halls. They were simple in concept and in execution.
A lot of the Factory Gate films, for instance, just one shot, static camera, 2 minutes.
They didn't have lights, they didn't have dollies, they used trams for dollies, they used the sunlight for light. So everything you see is them actually using what's around them in order to make their films.
In the once gritty industrial town of Blackburn, Mitchell and Kenyon's work was well known. Mitchell kept his camera and photo shop open into the 1950s. It's all changed now, but this is the street where the Mitchell and Kenyon story begins. This is where they had their shop. And in 1994, when this building was being remodeled, it was discovered that this is where for 72 years their films had been kept.
People who now occupy the property had builders in who were stripping the property out completely. And in the cellar, unknown to anybody, were found 3 drums.
Peter Worden, a Blackburn optician, film buff, and amateur historian, had been keeping his eye on Sagar Mitchell's photo shop for years.
When I got there, it was clear what it was. It was Mitchell and Kenyon material. Someone had to take this over and look after it.
Worden took the film, studied it bit by bit on his home equipment, and kept the rest of it in an unplugged freezer in his garage. Historian Vanessa Tolman was one of the first experts he consulted.
And inside were rolls of film, and he kind of pulled them out. And it was just amazing. It was just amazing to me that in his, first of all, there was enough nitrate to blow up the whole of Blackburn at the bottom of his garden. And secondly, he just had what was to me was the missing link.
Tolman convinced Worden to turn over his great find to the British Film Institute.
The first time that we really opened the can up, I think, was just an incredible feeling. It was amazement that these films had really survived 100 years without really being dust, because nitrate can just turn to dust in the end.
It's absolutely impossible to not feel this strong attachment to these films as you're working on them. And then when you actually see what you've done on the screen for the first time, it's an unbelievable feeling that you've actually brought that thing from some very small, discolored, shrunken, curling piece in a can to something on a huge screen that suddenly opens up and gives people a view into another century.
And what a view! Not just of the workforce or the shopping streets of the Edwardian age, but the future, rushing at an ever faster rate towards America, towards TV coverage of big-time sports events, towards nights at the movies and weekends at the beach, and towards war, as England prepared for World War I.
The more I look at the Mitchell and Kenyon material, and look at things like boys' brigades, look at the territorials in 1909, getting on a train in Blackburn Station, smiling, thinking it was all fun and games. And yet, within 10 years, a lot of them would have been dead.
When we come back, Mitchell and Kenyon's glimpse of what was soon to come.
As he pulls them out of the water, the words rats, which equates to fool you, is seen, and they let go of the plank so the bobby falls into the water.
This is ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by IBM.